The top 5 worst signings in Premier League history. So Harvey, who have you gone with at number 5?
Number 5, I've gone for the main man, Andy Carroll. He went to Liverpool in 2011, costed 35 million at the time, which was a club record fee for Liverpool, and it was the most expensive British player of all time at that time. Obviously not now, but at that time he was. He signed from Newcastle, and he only scored 6 goals in his entire time at the club, and he's actually only loaned out before he could even make a year at the club. He wasn't even at the club for a year before he got loaned out, and he was signed as the most expensive British player of all time at the time, and as a club record fee. The fact that he only scored 6 goals and couldn't even make it a year at the club, he goes in number 5 for me. So Zach, who have you gone for number 5 then?
So I've gone with Daei Drinkwater, signed from Leicester in 2017. He did look really good next to Kante, but that was probably because Kante just did all the work, and he was sort of maybe just doing his job.
Well, I don't think
he was bad. I think he just did the job, and Kante made him look better. So then when he moved to Chelsea, he didn't sort of look.
Yeah, it's true.
Really
but
fit in.
35 million. I remember him and Morata got signed in the same year, and they both costed a combined 100 million. And we've seen how that's turned out. Chelsea have spent some awful money, and that is up there with one of their top worst signings, especially together. 100 million for Drinkwater, Morata.
And what did he do for the club? Especially Drinkwater. He only made 23 appearances over 5 seasons, which is absolutely shocking.
Yeah, he kept loaning out to Burnley, loaning out to Villa. Was it Villa?
Turkish side, and Reading as well. And now he's retired. So it's a sad downfall because he did look really good in that title winning season, but costing 35 million and you make less appearances than the amount of money, the amount of millions that Chelsea spent. Very poor signing.
Especially seeing what's happened with off the pitch as well. He's just gone off the rails, hasn't he? So, unfortunately, Daei Drinkwater is at number 5 for Zach, and he was almost in mine.
So who did you go with at number 4?
I went number 4 for Fernando Torres to Chelsea.
Interesting. That's an interesting one.
So, obviously, he signed in 2011 as well. Same year as Andy Carroll, actually.
50 million, wasn't it?
50 million, correct. Yes, it's 50 million. And he actually couldn't break double digits in a single season for Chelsea. He ended up only scoring 19 goals in 96 appearances.
Is that league or all comps?
In league. So, it's not good at all. I know he had that great moment in the Champions League, but we're talking about Premier League right now. Fernando Torres was a complete flop for Chelsea. What the expectations
compared
at the
to
time?
Liverpool, because he was an absolute beast at Liverpool, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He almost won a Ballon d'Or. I think he was top 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly. And if I remember rightly, Fernando Torres was signed as almost, I think he was at record fee in the Premier League at the time. 50 million in 2011 is a lot of money. That's like equivalent to at least 100 million now, if not more. I think that's equivalent to like 120 million now. So that's the thing. 50 million in 2011 is a lot of money. You know, Andy Carroll was seen as a lot of money, but Fernando Torres was bought for even more. So that is why he goes in at number 4 for me.
So at number 4, I went with Balaban. So he signed from Dynamo Kiev for Villa in the summer of 2001 for a fee of 5.8 million, which doesn't seem a lot now, but back then that would have been about 30 to 40 million
been a good
in
portion
today's
of
market.
Money, that would, yeah.
Exactly. And Villa fans, well, I've seen things saying that's their worst ever signing, because he only made 9 appearances over his time there. In his first season, it took him 8 months to make his first full 90, and then by the end of the season, he went back to Dynamo Kiev on loan. And then after that, they decided to get rid of him because he was shocking. Like, you made 9 appearances, mental, took you 8 months to play your first full 90, and what was ironic was he performed really well before he joined Villa, really well in his loan spell back to Dynamo Kiev, and really well after Villa. So yeah, just a shocking signing. And ironically now, he's in a dispute with his wife, and I think he went to prison, over some financial things. But yeah, Balaban there is my number 4.
Seems to be a lot of issues with the off the pitch with these flop signings.
Exactly. Maybe it channels from their poor performances. So, Harv, who have you gone with at number 3?
Well, another flop signing shock is Alexis Sanchez to Manchester United. And obviously, we know the expectation of Alexis Sanchez. Despite coming off the back of a season where he scored 23 goals at Arsenal in the Premier League, he scored 3 goals in his entire time at Manchester United, which is ridiculous. He made only 22 appearances as well, which goes to show you he barely played, because 11 of them is off the bench, which is half of them. 50% of his appearances are off the bench, which goes to show he couldn't hack it. And I know he wasn't signed for a massive fee because his contract was very short at Arsenal. It was about to run out that year. So United did get him on a fairly cheap deal.
But the wages
the wage was ridiculous. It was one of the highest in the Premier League, one of the highest in the world. You know, and it was just the expectation of Alexis Sanchez, the way, at Arsenal, he'd get compared to the likes of Hazard and Bale. And in nowadays, if he carried on like he did, he'd be getting compared to the likes of Salah. And he just completely fell off a cliff. 3 goals in his entire time at Manchester United. 3.
Some players just put on a United shirt and just fall and crumble.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's Sanchez's prime example of that.
Not to mention as well, one of Alexis Sanchez's seasons in 18-19, that he only scored 1 goal in the entire season. His other 2 goals were in 2017-18 when he joined in the January. But that entire 2018-19 year, he scored 1 goal.
Shocking.
1. So Zach, who have you got in at your number 3?
So my player at number 3 is Ricky Alvarez. So he signed from Inter Milan to Sunderland in 2015 for a fee of £9.5 million. Well, his first season was on loan, made 13 appearances, but he had a dodgy knee injury in his left knee. And yes, there was an obligation to buy at the end of the season, but unfortunately Sunderland didn't make it because he had then had an issue with his right knee. That's why he didn't make many appearances in his first season, because he had an issue with his right knee. So Sunderland said, the issue with his right knee must be linked to his left, so we're not going to pay the fee for signing him on, which was 9.5 million. So he went to Sampdoria, and then Sampdoria obviously didn't have to pay anything, and then there was a long legal dispute, and then Sunderland had to pay 9.5 million to Inter Milan for the player, because there was an obligation to buy and they didn't sign him. So that was not the worst of it. Then, because after all those sort of missed months of being paid, because he was at Sampdoria and Sunderland and there wasn't much communication there, then Sunderland later on had to pay a fee of 4.7 million, overall, all of his wages. So the whole fee nearly came to £20 million. He only made 13 appearances for the club, and then he went obviously to Sampdoria. So you got him on loan, and then you could have sent him back, but they said no, because there's an obligation to buy. You go to Sampdoria, but you pay the fee, and then you're going to have to pay your wages back at a later date. So it cost Sunderland nearly 20 million. He only made 13 appearances, and he was never actually their player. So Harv, who was your number 2?
And number 2, I've got another Manchester United player. I said I wasn't done with Manchester United players when I mentioned Alexis Sanchez, and I've gone for Paul Pogba, signed for 90 million. And the thing is, is the expectations of Paul Pogba coming in. He's a world beater, crazy, ridiculously good at Juventus, and he came in. We were expecting the world of him, but obviously injury issues were a massive concern for him. Obviously injuries, he did get a lot. But when he performed on that pitch, he just didn't have it for Manchester United. And especially when you've seen him play for France, especially in that 2018 World Cup.
Kante must lift players like Drinkwater and Pogba.
Well, exactly. I mean, obviously Kante does help, but when he played for France, especially in that 2018 World Cup, you could see he was on it, and he was switched on, and he wanted to perform. But every time he put a Manchester United shirt on, he just didn't have it. He looked like he didn't care. He was just lazy, and he was a shocking player.
Some people say he wasn't utilised right, but at the same time, it doesn't take away from the fact that you're not trying and not putting in the hard.
No, and that goes to show 90 million world record fee at the time, beating Gareth Bale's 80 million signing to Real Madrid. So, you've got to expect everything. You've got to expect him to be the best player in the world if you're signing for a world record fee. And unfortunately, for United, he was not. Far from it, in fact. And Zach, who have you got at number 2?
So my number 2 is Romelu Lukaku, £97.5 million from Inter, and only scored 8 league goals for Chelsea before he went back to Inter Milan on loan. Yes, he still has the opportunity to maybe revive his career at Chelsea and make this move look less awful, but at the moment it is shocking.
And the worst signing in Premier League history is Romelu Lukaku. He is a shocking signing for Chelsea. 100 million he was signed for, and he is expected to bring Chelsea to title contenders, and he absolutely did not do that. In fact, he couldn't even make it halfway through the season without complaining about the manager because he was so bad he couldn't get into the team. That is how shocking of a signing he is. He literally did an interview slating the Chelsea manager at the time, Tuchel, completely putting the club in the absolute mud. And like Zach just mentioned, Inter Milan sold Lukaku for 100 million, and a year later they got him back for a grand total of nothing. Absolutely nothing. Shocking, they got him back and they reached the Champions League final. Absolutely terrible.
Brilliant for Inter.
Yeah, great for Inter. But the fact that you signed him for 100 million and he's gone for free back to the club he was at the next year, shocking. And the fact that, like I said, he couldn't even make it halfway through a season, Lukaku, without complaining about the manager because he was so bad and he was getting put on the bench. He's the worst signing in Premier League history. Yeah, a terrible attitude. He's up there with the likes of Paul Pogba with his attitude. So I'm telling you right now, Lukaku is the worst signing in Premier League history without a doubt in my mind.
So my number 1 is Ali Daei, who signed for, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who signed for Southampton in 1996 for 3. Graham Souness bought him. But the ironic thing about this story was he wasn't actually a professional footballer. A man rang up Graham Souness saying, I'm George Weah, who was obviously the World Player of the Year at the time, and said, I've got a cousin who I've played with at PSG, he's been scoring goals for Senegal, and he's now currently in the German 2nd Division. I think you should sign him. So Graham Souness said, yeah, we'll bring him along for a trial. And Ali Daei was literally a 31-year-old guy who dabbled with non-league football. He never actually played professional football. So they signed him on, and he came on for Matt Le Tissier in a match. Matt Le Tissier came off, he subbed him on, and then after 53 minutes of being on the pitch, he came on about 30th minute, he was subbed back off again because he was so bad. And then they found out later that he was never actually related to George Weah. He was never actually a professional footballer, and he conned everybody, conned the Premier League, conned Souness. And I know it might not be as bad as Lukaku from a financial point of view, but from a funny point of view, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
That is funny.
Like, how can you just been completely bamboozled by this bloke on the phone?
How has that even happened?
Exactly. And a non-league player is now playing in the Premier League, coming on for Matt Le Tissier.
That is actually... So, the fact that he's come from Matt Le Tissier makes it even more funny.
Exactly.
Well, that's one of Southampton's best ever players, arguably their best ever player, and he's gone off the bench bench for them.
Doesn't make any sense. Like, because surely Souness would have not thought, hang about, this guy's now playing in the German second division and he's played with George Weah, but I've never heard of him. I don't know how, maybe because of the media wasn't as big back then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Nowadays, that wouldn't happen. But yeah, for me, that is the worst signing in Premier League history. I do think Lukaku is worse from a financial point of view and in the grand scheme of things. But come on, that is just ridiculous. You never see anything like that. So unusual. Anyway, guys, put your worst signing in Premier League history down in the comment section. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more content just like this. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.